Bye. No, obviously not. So, yeah, I will talk here about the presentation, right? So this is, me coding Plembot and stuff. So first I need to say a few disclaimers up ahead. So as you can read by yourself, but I will mostly repeat it anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. If you had any question, I will answer that at the end of the presentation because I can't be bothered to do it during it. I think it's more relevant so you can understand it more, or, just hint me more stuff. But yeah, this is how it is. And I constructed this small presentation I have. Even if you don't know anything about coding or just even how software works or connections between client and server works, it's fine. I constructed it specifically and prepared myself so I can explain it better for you. Uh, the typical stuff, how connections work. Most of you, you're coders, I think. So it's gonna be like, yeah, that's true, but also it isn't. So take, keep in mind that this was kind of constructed for the people, so they don't understand anything about this. So I can explain it better by just simplifying it, even if it's not true, which is gonna be the case pretty soon. So what I kind of divided the presentation into. So I have like eight different points. I had four before. Uh, so I will be talking like if you don't know what it is, just came from T-Plus channel, whatever, or you know my channel but you don't watch or something, then I will make a small like introduction what PlanBot is. I will say how it works, what it is, and just general thing what it consists of. And then from points 2 to 5, I will basically say how the initial draft and how it continued after the initial draft, the coding of stuff, how it worked, how it proceeded to be better and better, until I will discuss the two extra versions I added recently this year actually. So that's version 2.0 and 2.1. Both of them are pretty big updates to the entire thing overall, which enables me to do a lot of stuff. So that's kind of the structure. So we are gonna start what is PlanBot. It's kind of easy, but before I do that, I have to notify you about some abbreviations or some phrases or whatever, uh, which I will be talking a lot about. So just to clarify it upfront, IRC Internet Relay Chat, which is basically what you can chat on Twitch, which is the Twitch chat. That is based on the IRC format of RFC stuff as well. So that's essentially the Twitch chat. I will be also talking a lot about API, which, well, you can see that's abbreviation for something. I simplify the explanation of just saying that the API is like an open way on your server to be open to like requests from other servers, so you can work like this via a program and you don't have to have like a manual interaction with stuff. I'm gonna be talking about API a lot because that's usually how these bots work, and we'll see how that goes from that point. And two small stuff I need to also point out: front ends and back ends. Front end is the thing you see and you interact. Easy, like the easiest way to explain what it is. Uh, God, easiest way to explain what front end is. It's essentially a way for you to interact with some kind of a program or something, which essentially communicates with the server in some kind of a way. So the perfect example I like are game clients. So you start up Guild Wars 2, you log in, you do this, then you're now playing Guild Wars 2, so you're playing with your character and stuff, you're walking around. So essentially what you see, that's your front end. And essentially what are you communicating with, because in the background you're communicating with the server. This is my position in the game world right now, so please transmit it to everyone else on the server so they see where I'm standing and stuff like that. This all is done by the backend. So that's essentially like easy way of saying what front end and back end is. So front end, you can read that. Mostly web pages. Web pages are the perfect example of a front end because you can go into any web page. You can see this. You can go to google.com. It's a small web page. You just type something, press enter. Then it interacts with the backend, which is the server. Searches for your query and stuff like that. It also searches for, like mistakes you might have made in the query as well. These kind of things as well. So perfect example, game servers are the best example for this. It's just a program that runs on a server and nothing else. You cannot directly access it. You have to have some kind of a front end to access it. So there you go. It's kind of explain what this is going to be about. So, when you now know this, the plan bot consists of three stuff. Back end and front end, obviously. And I have the third one, which is the channel bot itself, which I kind of forgot to turn on. But there we go. Plan bot is now on. Oops. Memes. Okay. Uh, I keep forgetting that for some reason. There we go. So it's a program that is written in C Sharp, which essentially it communicates with the official API I made for the plan bot, which consists of who is the mod, who is the other stuff like that. So this is how it communicates with the server and displays it for you. But everything else, which you do not have to interact with, if you're even in the channel, the bot doesn't do anything in C Sharp, like the Twitch chat bot I made. PHP with face, yes. I really shouldn't respond to your messages because I know you're gonna trash talk me from now on as soon as I'm gonna finish this presentation. Feels bad, man. Anyhow. Yes, I'm using PHP 7. I wanted to use ASP.NET, but essentially I didn't. Because PHP was just more accessible to me because I knew a lot of stuff from PHP already, and with the introduction of PHP 7, it was it was just a new nice addition from what I was using the old versions, which were kind of meh. But basically I'm using MySQL database for both front end and back end. The front end, which is basically the web page you see. You can also consider the front end basically my Twitch chatbot, since it's displaying information based on your query. It's some kind of an interface for you, but I would still say that the perfect example for the front end in my case is just the web page. So you go to the web page, you see the information right away, which is from core part of the server and the core code of the entire thing anyway. So this is what it is, and just quickly recap if you just missed it. Backend server is written in PHP, MySQL, using MySQL to store the data. So PHP, PHP with face, I know, blah, blah, blah. It's the thing I've been coding in for about 7 years now, so please just stop. I like it, especially the type juggling. But anyhow, the data I'm storing is using MySQL, which is a database system. That's the only thing you kind of need to know about it. It's just stored in the database with some protective stuff as well. So that's kind of the backend server. I don't want to expose a lot of the backend, but I have some examples which some of you, especially coders, might prove kind of funny. So if you haven't seen it, I've displayed multiple times on Twitch. This is how my bot, the IRC bot, which is written in C# looks like to me. And this is what responds to you when you do exclamation mark proofs, exclamation mark giveaway, these kind of commands, even exclamation mark song. These commands all work. So this is handling all these stuff together and under one easy interface, which I can just run, and it's there forever. Sometimes it just crashes because my internet goes down or something because I'm too lazy to try catch and stuff like that. But I can just restart it and it works. It's kind of a lot reliable software until my internet goes down. It's the only big bad thing about it. So the web page part. You've seen the web page. I've showcased the official API that I have for it as well, which you can see on the right. I queued Neva, for example, just so you can see his information. So you have the ID, name, display name. This is all things I have saved in the database and that I'm keeping track of. So I see how many reward points you have. I see how many, stuff you bought in upgrades, giveaways, how many you participated, how many you won, these kind of stuff. Uh, but essentially, it doesn't work for Neva only. It works for every other viewer out there, so you can just queue it yourself just to see yourself. It's exactly what it is. It's another version of a front end. It's an interface, so like the user or a server can interact with this. So it's essentially kind of another front end as well. So the website contains the part you all know that's on the left side, and the part which is the official API release but no one uses but me on the right side, which is public. You can just queue everything you want to and stuff. So that is what Planbot is in its entirety. So now I will be talking about like how I got the idea. So the obvious thing is, just to reward that, I have a lot of viewers, so I can recognize some people who are, visiting a lot, stuff like that. I also needed to have some kind of a system which I could do some giveaways with. This system is kind of easy to use and kind of easy to understand as well. Which the early idea, I thought it's gonna be simple. It wasn't in the end, but we're gonna talk about that later on. The third point is kind of obvious. You want to be the first one, like Tar, but when you're the first one, there have to be some limits, which I will also talk about later on. Um, the last point is just like I had an idea that you can level up your status from like the casual viewer to like a regular one or something, so you can get more rewards, which essentially became the upgrades, which you can choose by yourself. There are not many, as you know, but um, that's exactly how it was. So let's talk about point by point about this. So it's kind of obvious what it was designed from. So War vs. World reward system was a huge influence in just getting everything done in the first iteration of a bot, since you had participation. That participation gave you the certain amount of points every 5 minutes, which was the tick. You needed certain amount of points to finish your reward track. As soon as you finished your reward track, you got proofs of U-botting, which was the main channel currency. And then there was like a stream reward track, which was combined of all ticks together, which essentially is still here, which I think it was a nice idea in the end, so I kept it. But I used the pip system. Some of you might remember it. That was horrible. The implementation I had of that was also absolutely horrible. I'm kind of glad I just got rid of it. And of course, I wanted to have some kind of a bonus. If you're a sub, if you're a follower, then you get some extra, channel currency. So it's slightly easier for you to, enlarge your EPIN. So the second part was the giveaway part. So it was kind of obvious. Proofs of voting is going to be the main channel currency, so it's going to be used to increase your chances to getting winning the giveaway. I was planning with some follower sub bonuses at the start, which I didn't implement until actually very late. But I had the idea of it from the beginning when I made it the first time. So the third time, kind of obvious. Who farmed the most is, the best one, the most usable one. And I was thinking of like, okay, I can do like the rank system. So if you're the first, you get this. If you're second, it's kind of obvious who's going to be first, who's going to be second, stuff like that. But with this, it came the idea how like the best view the ranks overall, and that's obviously via website. So you can just go to the website, search for the whoever you want to search for. You can also search not like the full name. You can only write like a piece of the name. it actually filters out everyone who has like this piece you wrote in his name and stuff like that. So all of this was the initial idea to actually make the website. Um, and when I was thinking about actually making a website, then there's no better like interface to do anything anymore, since okay, I can do like a lot of commands with bots. You can purchase, boosters and stuff, but to me that idea was just not good. So essentially, that's what became of the fourth part, which was the upgrades. So now we have like upgrades that you have extra giveaway tickets, very powerful boosters, this kind of stuff. Essentially, I had an idea that these upgrades or levels can increase whatever channel currency you have, blah blah blah. Uh, just making it slightly better for you, so you can farm better. But in order to do these upgrades, you would have to have the participation in the reward tracks and stuff. So there are a few requirements to it as well. So I think that was a really good idea for a system, but as we've all seen, it can be abused quite heavily. So I'm gonna talk about it later, obviously, because that was the ending, basically, what I had planned by 2.1 currently. But this was the early idea. Just do this. Just having a temporary booster, so for a certain amount of time you can have this kind of booster or something. That kind of was a nice idea, I would say. I liked it. So that was the initial draft I had, and with this draft became the first part I need to do, um, which is making the bot itself. So this is the part when I explain or try to explain uh, why did I go for C# bot in the first place and stuff like that. I don't care. I just knew C#, so that's what I did. Um, this is like the overview of what the application can do for me, but mainly I had to encounter one big problem at the start, right at the start, before doing anything else, because I didn't know how Twitch chat works. I knew how to do PHP code and stuff, but I did not know how the Twitch chat works. So I had to find a solution, and that became my first ever problem I had to face. So that was the IRC problem. That's what I call it here. So this one I fixed it with C#. So I had to learn how to properly use connections, like from point to point, how to upkeep those connections, how to use handshakes to initiate the connections itself, this kind of stuff. That was kind of easy at the start. I kind of understood it pretty nice. Well, I liked it a lot. There were several tutorials on YouTube how to do like IRC bots and chats and stuff like that. So that was a huge help to me. The big problem became when I encountered a problem where I had to run two different connections to IRC at the same time. Um, this is the first kind of problem that kind of puzzled me, but then I was like, that has an elegant and a very easy solution. It's written down there, but if you are a mod and you do !Sudoku command, whoever does the Sudoku command, that's essentially the bot. Like everything I've coded thus far was that bot does it and no other interaction with me or just anything else, just the bot itself. So the first command I've added was Sudoku, and I was like, okay, there's a problem, because if a mod types !Sudoku, it doesn't work, because mod cannot unmod another mod. That can only be done by the main author or the streamer itself. So that was the problem I obviously fixed, as Terry just seen. It works now. It worked the entire time, by the way. This was the first problem. This was right at the start of what I did, guys. So this was a year ago. But this was the first problem I encountered, but it had an elegant solution. Just make two connections with the same C# class I made for the IRC. It was an elegant solution. It was stupid at the same time, but every like command which needs to be transmitted with higher privileges than the mod, which is the streamer, is just done by the second connection. And that kind of fixes this entire problem. So essentially, it became the first problem I had to face, but also it had a kind of easy solution, and it worked quite well. As well, some people already tried in the channel I just seen. So yeah, exclamation mark Sudoku works. Later, I added multiple commands, which interacts with other processors I have running, including Spotify. So this is how you could do, exclamation mark song, and it actually pulls the song name from the Spotify, stuff like that. That all worked. So this was the first problem I had to encounter. But the part of this bot was doing the front end so you can interact with it, but I needed to do some kind of a back end. So again, repeating PHP 7.1 and MySQL database, okay. And this is the solution I've found, which I like, but everyone who knows any kind of coding will say this is stupid. And I'm going to explain why I thought that using a cron was a good idea, because I was stupid. But now it works on a cron. It actually works pretty fast currently. It had some issues. I will talk about it, of course. But the cron itself is kind of okay. What is cron if you don't know? It's essentially like a timer. You can set it up that you want at this specific time that it triggers the like a script or something or program you have on your machine. In my case, this was a PHP script. So I just set it up that every 5 minutes it does a PHP script, which essentially is what the channel tick is. So I've seen someone mention in channel, I think it was Terry, who said that RIP channel currency gain. No, the channel currency gain is not done by the C# program here, but is done by the cron itself. So essentially, if the Twitch API is not broken, then you tick. It doesn't matter anything else, but you tick anyway. So even if I don't have the program running on my personal computer, if I just forget to run it, you will always get the tick anyhow. So it doesn't matter if the bot is running or not. So essentially, I can just forget about it the entire day, just not running. No one, I don't think that many people are using, the bot itself. If there's, no giveaways. So sometimes someone, just do exclamation mark proofs, but that's kind of it. So that was like the one part of the cron. This is how it is now, guys. So it also checks like a different Discord servers. Some people may know I made some kind of version of the bot working on the Discord servers in some kind of a fashion. So it checks every 5 minutes as well and does this or this. It displays this here and does something here, checks for messages in the specific channel or something, and removes it or something like that. That works. And now the server also contains a receiver for webhooks, which is what Twitch added in the new API. We'll talk about it a lot in the end. But I added that in the latest Planbot, which essentially is that I can subscribe to like an event which can happen on Twitch servers, and I can say, if you get this event with this parameters, these parameters can be like, is the stream up or down for this specific channel? Like this can be the parameter. And I can, request that I want to receive every response if something happens. So I receive the response when something happens. And there are only two ways right now to do stuff. They will be adding more, especially subs, for example. But right now, it's only that you can check or you're getting posted to stream ups, when it goes live and when it goes down, which is absolutely perfect because now I don't have to have my C# application, which actually had a button. You cannot see it there, but it had a button where you could, basically the button said send early birds, which essentially is, if you know how, the early bird system works, it updated the time and stuff like that. From this time, that considered it to be live. In the second iteration I did, in the first iteration, it was even worse, and I'm gonna talk about it in the next slide. But uh, currently, I can get from Twitch directly that the stream is live. It takes roughly like 3 to 4 minutes until I get the response, so it takes some time. But essentially, I will get the response from the Twitch that this channel is, by the way, this channel is live. So I could do the necessary things for it, so I can post it to the Discord server. This is how, the bot always posts slash everyone and the link to my channel in the bot spam channel on my Discord server, for example. This is how it can be implemented on one special Discord, which is not available to the public eye, but someone who knows and is in the same Twitch team will know that there is the same thing, but for every streamer in part of the Delusional Elitist Twitch team, and that works as well. So this is the exact same thing. So I request that I want to subscribe to like a certain thing on Twitch, and they send me the response like 3 minutes later that this channel is live or not. And it works on the basis where I go live or something. So I subscribe for 2 days, for example, because it has the limit of 10 days. So I set it up to 2 days in case there is some kind of a problem. So it just doesn't work for one day, but it's going to work for the other. But essentially, the Twitch sends, oh, by the way, this channel is live. The code processes it, how it works, and does the appropriate things I coded it to be. This also works for follows as well. So if you follow this channel, it does something. If you weren't in the database, it adds you to the database. If there's a giveaway running, it will actually flip the switch and turn you to be as a follower, so you can have the double of chance for following and stuff like that. But these webhooks, as I said, I need to subscribe for up to 10 days. And I have to renew it after the max, after the certain time. So I set it up for every second day. So the refresh timer is done by cron. So every second day I set up a cron that it refreshes these webhooks so they always work when I need them to work. So this is kind of the overview of the backend. But obviously this is not how it was from the beginning, right? And this was the idea which kind of interlines with the early idea I had before. And that was making the system to be somewhat nice towards everyone who knew about War vs. World. So I've kind of hinted at that there's a 5-minute cron or 5-minute tick if you want to see it like that. And that processes the ticks for you. It gives you the proofs. Before, if you still remember it, it gave you points instead. And the first iteration manually was checking if the stream is live. So this was a problem because every script it had to check if the stream is live, which was kind of, time consuming. But the worst part was it was checking that manually if everyone is following. So if you unfollow after you follow, so I can get it in the database, so I can see that you actually unfollowed and stuff. And there was no webhook back then, so I had to do it manually. And it resulted that 20 people, like processing 20 people on the channel, took me 1 minute to complete the script. So essentially, the tick was 1 minute long just to process 20 people. So in case I would get hosted by Teapot, suddenly 160 viewers, the text would be larger than 5 minutes. So it would actually engage another tick while the previous one was running, and that's not good. So it needs some optimization, and that's what I did in the later versions, and keep adding to it. And this is kind of how it is now, just for a comparison. So it's still the same. It's done by every 5 minutes, but now it uses switch webhooks, so it doesn't check anymore, when it's up or down. Just in the database, I have a single toggle which says, is stream live? Yes, it is, or no, it isn't. If it isn't, then don't do anything. Just kill yourself, die. That's a joke, by the way. That's literally how the function works. It says die, and it kills itself. Okay, whatever. So, oh god. So this is kind of how I coded it. And now with Twitch webhooks, it was so easier to just see if the stream is up or down. It was really good now, so I just do the same thing to followers. So if you follow the channel, it's no longer processed by the tick system at all. It's no longer processed by the ticks, and like these big changes in computer time and more optimization. These are only a few mentioned, but there were more optimizations going as well. But these reduce it that roughly 80 people can take 15 seconds of this entire script to run. And I added the wiggle there, which essentially means if there are new people and they're all new people. Since it requires to constantly check the new API to get, what is your name, what is your Twitch name, what is your Twitch ID, what is your Twitch display name, so I can mention you whenever you do a command and stuff. So I put a wiggle there, which basically says it's 15-second runtime, but essentially, if there are no new viewers at the channel, with 80 people, the script takes roughly 2 seconds. It's very fast, so it can handle a lot of, queries as well. And it also queues the new Twitch API, which takes time, so that's why I put 15 seconds there. So the tick is very fast right now. There are some compromises. For example, if you unfollow, it is only checked at the end of the day that you're still following. So this is done by a different cron, which runs daily to check if everyone is truly following, and that it toggles when you unfollow. So if you follow just because there's a giveaway running and then you unfollow in the database, you will just unfollow, and that's it. That's gonna work, and that's exactly how it's gonna work. So essentially now the comparisons are pretty big, right? So I needed to optimize pretty early on as well, which kind of reduced it to like a minute with roughly 50 people. That was the first iteration. But then I did multiple things. I've mentioned that the early birds was counting as the stream start, basically, instead. So whenever I just pressed the button, it started ticking until the stream went offline. Whenever I did, the end stream, when it typed the song and vote yeah, vote nay. Both of these like buttons communicated with the unofficial API, which was hosted on the server, not accessible to any of you, just in case, you can use it. This kind of worked, and it was exactly what I kind of needed anyway. It was just the one problem. I just needed to press the button every single time. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. But it fixed the problem pretty heavily, so I was happy I kind of fixed the problem there. So now it's no longer a kind of a problem because this system is ready for a huge load. So whenever someone hosted with 255 people, like Nike hosted back then, I purposely set up some statistics since I updated to the Planbot 2.0, and the script took roughly 25 seconds to process about 214 people, which were new. 214 people which were new, and extra like 40 people which were already watching the channel. So that was a pretty big, up and down, and it worked beautifully. So maybe in the future, if I get above 100, that would be nice, but we'll see how that goes. So the system is ready for heavy loads. It's perfect right now. I'm saying it's perfect, but it's written in PHP, so feels bad, man. But this is kind of what I needed to do. So I needed to optimize the server components. I've talked about the faster ticks, how actually it's important to be somewhat faster. Then I implemented the new follows and subs stuff to the bot itself. So whenever you sub now, the bot automatically just toggles you in the database. You don't need to wait for the new tick so you can actually be recognized as a sub as it was before. So it's just way better right now. And obviously, I had to construct an unofficial API which handles the commands. So we got the queries from Twitch chat, and we got some extra other spot. So this essentially kind of became the feeling that, okay, I needed the unofficial API, so I made it. and the bot itself communicates with it, and also it communicates with itself. It actually uses its own API at one point, which is a very bad design, and I did completely remove that, so it's like purely not, non-recursive and stuff like that. So yeah, this is essentially what needed to be done. I needed to optimize every single part of the server component just so it works faster or stuff like that. But now it's ready. And now, just a few examples I did just to make it faster. And if you know any kind of coding, the first one is like, you were a stupid idiot. And you're right, I was a stupid idiot. It was very early in the morning, and this is what I was doing every single time. So the first example is we want to replace the first letter with a question mark. On the left side, you will always see what I had, and on the right side, what I have right now, what is like the optimized code. So on the left, it looks horrible. Like it cuts the string after the first, letter, and it takes the entire string until the end. So I didn't even have to put the len even there, but I did because stupid. So it cuts it until the end, and then to this cutted string, it adds a question mark at the start. That's stupid. Because if you see the solution on the right, I just say, oh, at the index of 0, I just replace the character with question mark. Done. Optimization done. It was horrible, and it worked in the end, so I was happy. So on the bottom side, it's okay. It was another example of a very bad code, but in the end, it worked. So we have a SQL command. Just we want to get proofs. And we want to order by tally, proofs, and Twitch ID. And then I had the cycle which repeated until it found you. So there are like about 5,000 people in the database right now, I think. 5,300 I checked earlier today. So the further you're back down, the longer it takes to just get your rank. And it was horrible. And this was done in PHP code on the left side, and I was like, okay, it's fine. But on the right side, the SQL server was independent of the PHP server, and generally they're faster. So I was thinking of just making it faster. So I wrote an SQL code which does the exact same thing on the left side. Just get the current rank you have, and just returns the number with the appendix at the end, basically. So if you are first, then it types, it returns 1, but the function nice number returns st after the number 1. It works for 21st as well, 22nd, these kind of numbers. It just adds the appropriate ending towards the number, so it's actually some kind of a rank, so it can show. So yes, optimization on the left, what was on the right, what it is right now. Wait, yeah, you see it the other way because mirror, but yeah, you get the idea. It was horrible. I've seen my own code. I'm like, why didn't I do this? Especially in the first case. It was really not nice, but in the end, I managed to somewhat optimize it more. And there's no stopping. There's always a way to optimize the code to be faster, to be better in some kind of a way. But again, that's something I want to talk about later on because that's a part of the big Plembot updates at 2.0 and 2.1. So these are only 2 examples of my code. I'm not going to share more code with you just in case, but it's horrible to look at anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? So let's talk about the website. So yeah, I've talked about its front end. It uses PHP 7.1. It uses MySQL. It also uses the HTML framework, which is the Bootstrap version 3. It has the icon like this, but essentially what you need to know about the website, like what is Bootstrap? It's just a framework which allows me to put the entire website into a grid system. So I can say this grid has this, percentage towards the entire site, and I can put content there. So this is how I structure the tables where you see and look in the statistics. This is how I structure the dashboard. These things like that. It's just done by, and it's formatted and done by the Bootstrap free HTML framework. Um, but since the website, there is a problem, and there always was a problem. Um, I was struggling with how I will be, how I will be able to just make accounts. How are you able to access your Twitch stuff? So this is what I named the problem, which was problem number 3. I didn't give it a name; it was just a problem. But you could call it like login problem or login flow problems or whatever. Um, but essentially, the website, totally, I was making few parts of the Planbot public. So if there was an error, it's gonna be heavily visible on the site because, for example, the rank get rank will return the latest rank, like the rank 5000 something, like it was recently bugged, as you've seen. So these kind of parts of the Planbot will become public, like these functions. So if there's way to somehow bug it, it's gonna be visible on the site most of the time. So that was a big problem I was facing, like which parts I'm gonna make public, which I can trust, that which are very hard to just go uh, around security issues, stuff like that. But this kind of also is with the next part, security issues. How do I log you to the website? Really didn't want you to log in, that you had to register by the site so you can, link it with your Twitch name so you can actually access the site itself. I thought that way to be really stupid. Fortunately, almost as every other application out there, allows you to log in via their application. So like Facebook can do it, even Twitter has some kind of stuff as well. Twitch has it. Almost every like big website has some kind of a way and login flow which you can use as a developer to use account created on that specific website. So the obvious solution, because this is a Twitch chatbot, I used the Twitch official logging overflow. So that's how I created logging via Twitch account. So you're logging by your Twitch account. You're no longer logging by just username and password you had to create, register on the website. You can just press one button, you can allow it, and you back at the website, you're logged into the website, and that's done. And this was kind of the problem I was also facing. I really didn't want to have a single cookie on the site. One, it would require me to run this stupid, pop-up that by using this site, you acknowledge that this site uses cookies to enhance your experience or something like that, and you would always have to press, I understand, if you are a part of EU. That's part of the regulations of EU, unfortunately. So I was like, I really don't want to code it. So instead of cookies, which are saved on your browser, so whenever you go back to the website, you're instantly logging. You don't have to do anything. You're still logged in. This is how Facebook works. This is how Twitch works. But I really didn't want to face these security issues that comes with it, including just someone can pretend by a cookie. They can change their own cookies. You can do it yourself even. And developers do it like normally, like it's normal. I just change my cookie so I can access the site as a different user when I'm testing my application or something like that. This all can be done with like changing the cookies. So this is a very big security problem, especially if the cookie is just a plain text without any encryption on it. So if it's in a case of Guild Wars 2, for example, let's say this text is your API key. I would say the API key is fairly secure. So if you go into, I don't know, like Guild Wars 2 efficiency site, and you go to the My Keys tab and you added key before, it's still stored there. You can see it. If you actually go to the cookies section in the developer tools on your browser, you will see that this API key is saved as a whole key in the cookie. So the website remembers it, all these kind of stuff. This is how cookies works. You just set them, and even if you leave the site, they are preserved in a form of cookie. They have an expiration date, so they need to be renewed after a while, but they're mostly renewed when you visit the site again. So the longer you, yeah, that's how it works. So I didn't want to do this kind of system. Someone can pretend to be others. I really didn't want to do that. So instead, I did a session-based system, which essentially is the next step of after using the cookie. So usually if you have a cookie saved in your browser, which you definitely have, you've definitely had at least Twitter, Facebook, or any kind of a page. I'm fairly certain many of you have YouTube accounts. You definitely have Twitch accounts. So all of the information you save in a cookie, but it's encrypted. So you take this encryption, you run it through some kind of algorithm. Whenever the site you try to load back to the site, or you load to the site after a while, the site checks if it's valid. If it's valid, it logs you in, and it saves you into the state of session-based stuff, which is always done by the server. So the cookies you have to store on your browser, which is the client-based one, can be abused. The session is only accessible by the server, and you cannot access it by the client. So I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna skip the no cookie part and just go directly to the session. This is how I did it. And you can see the code there. Well, not code, but the text there. But when you press the button login via Twitch, the first time you've never logged onto the web page, it says either login via Twitch. You have to put your username and password there, the Twitch password. If you're logged in already, for example, if you're watching this stream and you're logged in the chat, you can talk and stuff. You can go to the website. You never visited the website before. You can click on there. It is going to ask you if you're going to allow me, to get the data I need for you to log in. Basically allow me access to your account so I can get that you are the one you're talking. You are a guy whose Twitch name is my Twitch name or something. I can verify that using that, so that's easily doable like that. So, as soon as you authenticate on the website, Twitch is gonna redirect you towards my site again, which we had to previously establish in the settings of the bot itself and stuff. When I set it up, the Twitch application called PlanBot, which uses this kind of flow. So now, if you visited the site like even yesterday and you're visiting today now when I'm talking about it, if you press on login, it seems it loads for roughly like 2-3 seconds, and then it displays the web page, and that's it. You don't see any like authenticate using Twitch and stuff, because Twitch is so nice, and Twitch knows that you granted me permission already. So essentially, I don't need to ask it again. So it just directly redirects you towards my site again, and my site will process what the redirection data is coming as well, because the data includes getting a token, which I need to verify with Twitch servers. If the Twitch server verified it's a valid token, it's going to return whoever owns this token, which is how I get your names, which is how I get your display names, and which is how I get your Twitch IDs as well. Okay, so this was a huge problem, as you can see, because I talked a lot about it. This kind of the redirection allowing stuff, this is called the logging flow or authentication flow, whatever you want to call it like that. So you have to flow through different stuff to just authenticate that this is truly the person who's claiming to be us. So this is when you log into the site, when it logs to you, now you know how it works. It checks with the servers, and from both servers, one part it checks on the Twitch servers that this is the user who just wants to log in, and then it compares it to my database, and if you exist in my database, you will successfully log in. So this was a huge problem at the start. So this was the thing that took me the most of my time, but essentially now you see it. It's kind of easy. It works almost every time. Sometimes it like slightly bugs out because the API authentication code I have can expire as well, so I need to renew it every like 2 months, I think. So the next renewal is I think in 3 weeks. But as you know me, it's done by a cron, so I don't have to renew anything anyway. So yeah, it works like this. It works. I'm happy. Boom. That's how you log into the site. So a big part of the site is statistics, right? Because you want to see how you're doing, how well you're doing, how well everyone else is doing, so you can compare yourself towards anyone else. So yeah, it has the enlarging your EPN's value to it, obviously. But you see the list of everyone, the rank 1 to rank 25. You can also search for people. Yeah, this is how statistics works. Of of give me a second. I need to drink. That's better. Sorry. So another part of is our giveaways. Um, I had the previous giveaways which were running. I removed that. You may have noticed that I removed that in the latest version because it was just slowing down the entire load of this of the statistic page way too much than it should have been. So I removed that, and now it only displays the last giveaway. But I really wanted, as you remember, so the site is not only there, but also so you can somehow interact with it, and it's almost like interaction with your the chat you see in Twitch chat. So entering a giveaway is a very big part of the site itself. So you can also the bot itself. So it's a core feature, so I really wanted to add it towards the site. So this is how I actually end up adding the way, so you can either edit or enter the giveaway on the website directly, so you don't have to wait until or you have to go into Twitch chats and stuff like that. I do not have statistics for it, but I know some of you were like checking the statistics page for the like percentage, which was exactly the last point there. I really wanted to display what chances of winning do you have when you enter with this amount of channel currency, and if you're a follower or sub or something like that. So I wanted to display it overall on stream so it's easily visible. Uh, as well, so I can just put it into a window and just put the window into the stream so you can see it. Yeah, that worked pretty well, I would say. I think some of you are using it. I'm definitely, when there's a giveaway, I'm talking about it, like who has the highest chances and stuff like that. So this is kind of what the statistics were about. And a huge part of the site, I've talked about the leveling up, the which essentially become the upgrades as well, but the parts of stream rewards of the site. So I've talked about I could make the channels to purchase these upgrades. I can make it as a command, sorry, in the Twitch chat. So you could do a special command, so you can so you can buy this upgrade directly via chat. But then was like people will forget what should they type and stuff like that. Like the visual interface is truly like the one that is gonna tell you, oh, I have exactly this many points, I can purchase this, it does this, and there's a button I can press to instantly purchase. This is exactly what I had in mind when I first created this kind of a system. As you can see, the third point, there are only two things that are true in that third point, which is permanent and tick-based rewards. I was planning, and kind of still am, but I don't think it's gonna happen. A time-based bonuses, so you have a certain amount of time until this expires. And temporary bonuses, which I was thinking about, like one time or something like that bonus, just a quick bonus, which essentially become the rewards for following or subbing to other members of Twitch, to the Twitch team, Delusional Elitists. which I will also talk about. So don't worry, I'm not gonna skip that much. God, it already has been kind of an hour. Fuck. Okay. So this was the stream rewards part. Um, so the picture in my mind was just make it visualize so you don't have to type like exclamation mark buy space. I would probably do like some kind of ID system, so you would have to press which ID you want to buy. That would be just horrible implementation for the bot. It would be horrible if there were more people on the channel and it would just become, just a very big of ball of people trying to exclamation mark buy and stuff like that, or exclamation mark proofs, stuff like that. So I essentially just said no, I will just put it onto the website, and that's what I did. Um, so now PlanBot has been released. So we've talked about every part of the bot. We've talked about the backend. We've talked about the C sharp part. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but there were immediate problems. The website came very late after the initial plan bot, but essentially, I knew this was a problem. People, especially the new people who came into the channel, didn't know how the currency works. Essentially, the easiest explanation was it was exactly like Guild Wars 2 World vs. World, rewards, but it wasn't enough. So I put it into the stream description. It was 300 words long. No one really wanted to read that. So yeah, it was obvious. Um, so yeah, we had different problems, as you can read. We had tick-based participation, which led to finishing reward track, which granted you proofs of rewarding or reward points, and you could use these proofs to enter the giveaway. So everyone who did exclamation mark points back then, they've seen like they had 200 points. So whenever there was a giveaway, just exclamation mark giveaway 200, and it didn't work because they didn't have a single proof of rewarding it. These kind of stuff. So it became a problem, especially also in the combined stream reward track. It's percentage based participation. So if you had, I think it was 4.5% or something, 5%. If you had more than 5% of overall to those like 200,000 or 250,000, I don't remember even how many points was needed to like finish the stream reward track. It was kind of okay, but this kind of system was, oh, you need to surpass this percentage, how much points you donated to it, so you can get more proofs. I was like, okay, this is nice, but I really don't want to do this. So essentially, it was obvious that it's not over. Even when I released the first blind bot, like even with the website, everything, it was a problem. Not only because code, how long it took and stuff like that. Resolving the reward tracks was also slowing down the previous bot. I forgot to mention that completely in the slides, but that was also slowing down. Since now we don't have a single reward track, but the stream one, it's way faster, so that's why I said the optimizations at the start were really huge. So the three question marks at the end, is this the over? Well, of course it wasn't. So this is how the idea of changing the entire plan bot to release the version 2.0, as I called it, came to be. Essentially, it was an update which I simplified the channel currency. It was fairly recent. It was January this year, so it was fairly recent. Also, I forgot to capitalize the G. Great. English, boys. It was by far the biggest update to the plan bot since the release. It was like I couldn't compare it to any other update I did before that. Even like putting the giveaways on stuff. This was just the biggest update because it changed so many things in the core functions of PlanBot. So I had to change the website a lot. I had to change the the server a lot because it was mostly counting on the old point system, old reward tracks, which were personalized as well. These kind of things. It was a mess, simply put. So essentially, I had to decide that I need to simplify. So I simplified the entire point. So now every 5 minutes you're getting the main channel currency directly. There's no like something in between. You're taking this amount of point because your participation is this. This amount of points is needed to get the proofs. You can use these proofs in giveaway. It was way too complicated for new people, so I just stripped down the entire beginning. Just you get the initial currency right away. It was nice. I removed pips as well because I really wanted to rehearse the entire reward system itself. Because I really, as I mentioned in the previous, I didn't like that you had to surpass a certain percentage of how many stuff you gave. Fuck, I forgot to disable this bullshit. Why did he? Some guy just randomly invited me to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Okay. Okay, whatever. I turned off Steam. How did I forgot to turn it off? God damn it. Anyhow, sorry. So it was fairly apparent that I need to change it, and the update itself, 2.0, was split into 3 different updates. I will talk about them specifically, like in each slide, so it's kind of easier to understand. But the idea to remove the pips was there since even on the server it looked horrible. The implementation I put for the pip system and how it worked, it was horrible. So this is how I kind of did it, and I split it into 3 small updates, which I called, Pembot 2.0 update 1, update 2, update 3. And the first one I called preparation. Which essentially created the official API, so I had to change the bot itself. So the bot uses the new official API since it was faster because it was not on the same server as the tick were happening, so it was faster because it was on the website, on a different website even. So I essentially make the official part. I rearranged the salt category, which it was it wasn't single category. It was just 3 different points of salt. That category includes, the general changer, which you can submit your messages. So they can be, flipped in the general channel of Salt Discord. These kind of implementation. This is all done by Plembot. So in this small update, I also updated the resources for the website it used. So I updated Phone Awesome, which is the icons. You can see, the icons for the blind guy and stuff like that. I updated it. I updated Bootstrap, the latest version, jQuery, and other bunch of stuff. And I was slowly getting ready for the second update, which was the update that completely ripped the points apart, which I named Rip Points Lul, Zulul. So yeah, this it was the second part of the Plembot 2.0 update, but essentially this update on its own was the biggest to anything else. So this was actually, even if it's a small part of 2.0 as well, small part, it's the biggest part, but also it was a part of the update 2.0. Essentially, this was the biggest thing I've done. So I changed the currency. I've talked about it. I started to, look up how can I optimize the code, just there and there, just improving the overall fastness and stuff. That worked. So that worked, boys. And the thing is, I had to give it, start running it. It was a problem. So the the entire thing was completely new. I completely rehearsed the entire system, and it didn't work as well as I initially hoped. So there were some bugs. Give me a second, boys. Sorry. I'm getting to an end, boys. So it's fine. So it was fairly, it was obvious I needed to do some changes as well to the optimization because the giveaway page, more giveaways, it was loading, worse and worse every time. It was just horrible. So yeah, I just changed that. I did some changes. The biggest changes I did in this kind of update was removal of the previous giveaways. I've mentioned it earlier. So the entire page just loaded way faster suddenly. So it actually felt good. And instead, I replaced with the top 25 people, who won the most, who bet the most proofs on giveaways and stuff like that. But the hardest part was getting the new currency running, and essentially it worked. So this third part, which was like just I'm over it. It kind of works right now. I wanted to have, since I was a part of the Delusional Elitist Twitch team, some kind of a way to, if you are following other streamers or which are in the same team, or you are sub to, you kind of, you have some kind of bonuses on my channel. That was the initial idea I actually want to have with the Twitch team. There's some general information if you don't know about the team. But the points 3 and 4 are like the most important from my part and my perspective. I really knew I wanna at least provide some temporary boosts. So you get the temporary boost whenever you actually claim the bonus and you redeem it. Um, but I also had a plan to make a permanent one. But in the end, I scrapped that idea. It was very hard to implement, and you would have to visit the site every month so you can check if you're eligible to get this booster. And I was like, well, no other streamer will do this anyway. So I would rather provide, a temporary booster to the channel currency. So if they're coming from a different, member, like when Nike hosted, when the Gills to Patch hit, 250 people. So if there would be a giveaway, but there wasn't, but if there would be one, everyone could go to the site, redeem those, if they're sub to him, like 150 proofs plus the booster, so they can get some kind of a nice head start at the beginning when they, start to joining the community, joining the community and stuff. So this is how I, ended up designing this. So it was just a temporary boost with somehow displaying the overview page and stuff. I didn't mention it here, but part of this update was also updating the Discord integration via Plembot. I think I mentioned it in the few slides extra in front, but this was kind of, the big thing. So now, Planned 2.0 is released. What now? Is it over? No more updates? Obviously no. But because we have 2.1 now. But this was kind of the idea that I code this. It can last for a very long time. I don't have to add anything to it and stuff. That was the idea. That's why I had like the big update in. Overall, it took me roughly a month to like completely rework the system. In my free time, I had to, I had exams, so I had to go to the exams and pass them. I also had to do stuff for work, so I was also working instead of doing this. I did this in my free time when I just didn't have anything else and wasn't streaming or something like that. I kept doing that. So yeah, this wasn't an end, unfortunately. So this is the last problem I will talk about. So the Twitch is creating, they call it the new Twitch API, which is going to replace the current running API versions. The current running is version 3 and version 5. Currently, the bot still uses version 5. But this was a huge problem since the new API is not gonna be based on names. In the old API, I could just queue your name in the query, so I can get, oh, I wanna know if this person called Nevadaha, for example, is sub to this person. So I could call it like this. In the new Twitch API, it's going to completely, well, it deprecated the old versions, which essentially means they're marked for removal. And they will be removed at the end of 2018. So essentially, I had to rework the entire thing. So it's not, so it's going to work on the new API, which I did. Uh, and there was an obviously new problem. Since I cannot queue the new API with the Twitch names, I have to use it by, sorry. Since I cannot queue it with names, I have to do it by Twitch IDs now. And that was the sole reason why I needed to update Planbot to 2.1 pretty early after the initial part, which was, I would say, was the second, biggest update since to it, but I would still consider it as some kind of a nice update. So I needed to completely change the Twitch implementation and changed everything which I had in my database, which was based by name. So in my database, you were saved as this person, as this name, you have this many proofs and stuff like that. If you remember, Twitch allowed you to, or still is allowing you to change your name once, like in the like last year they introduced this new feature that you can change your name on Twitch. So it became a problem, obviously, since entire my database was based on names. So if the old name is no longer used, therefore the new name has to be used, right? But the bot didn't know that, so he created a second entry for you, and you had to start from the beginning, and that was a problem. And I needed to fix that, and well, after a long while, I did. So that was the main part of Planebot 2.1. So the Twitch didn't allow me to just do the normal just querying by names thing. It does in one endpoint, but I use that endpoint to get the Twitch ID so I can use the Twitch ID everywhere else. So this was the part of the big update, since I had to completely change my entire database, because it was the main thing in the database was always the person, the name of the person. Now it wasn't like that. So when I was doing this, I was also trying to look up, since I started to do like more optimization in 2.1. So I was thinking, yeah, I should really work on this update as well to just optimize the code as much as possible. Well, I just did that. So I optimized the code as much as I could. The most visible changes are on the statistic pages, and I've said the part of these updates were also the new Twitch webhooks. So that allowed me to really simplify everything, and it's fast now. The ticks are fast. The new people, coming to the channel, processing those people, that's fast as well. So all of these things are now done by Twitch IDs. So in the database, I used to have you stored under the name, for example, Terry Hesticles. You were saved as under the name Terry Hesticles, and to that name you have associated how many proofs you have, how many tally of proofs you have, because I added that in 2.0. What is your display name as well in the same table? That was the table called points back then. That single table holds everything. But then in the old updates, I added new ones like user settings. I also added the user upgrades, so that's a special table. All of these tables, even the giveaway tables where there was who won the giveaway was also done by a name, who also participated in a giveaway, that was also done by a name. All of these things I had to change it to the IDs instead, so I had to create one new table which will contain your ID, your display name, your normal name as well, and mainly it also displays not displays, stores your follow, sub, or bin subbed status. So I can check if you're sub, incredibly easy because you're done like that, and that's done. So big part of this update was this. The optimization not only goes for the statistic pages I did, but also it works for everything like on the site. I've simplified it. If you're logged in now, you used to like query a lot of the same queries in the page. when it was squared before. So I just simplified it entirely and just make one big session with it. So now it's saved in a session, which, as you might remember, it's stored by the server. You cannot access it any other way. So the server just stores it, and I can access this session from within the script, and I can display and change the web page depending on that. So I do not have to no longer have to query the proofs table, which is the new one after I changed points. The old points one also contained like if you're follower or sub, or been a sub, which I could understand, but just making a separate one, like handling Twitch stuff, was the best solution. And essentially, when I stripped everything, the names themselves are kind of taking a lot of space. Since in database you have to set up a limit of how many bits you allow for the names. So I did allow the exact names, the length of the names which Twitch provides, which was, I don't know which one. But anyhow, that was in every single table. And since nobody used the full amount of words, it just artificially increased the entire size of the database. So I put it into the changelog as well on the Planbot website. Let me check. So I'm not lying. I put it into the changelog. I started with, I started with 2.2 megabytes, like size of the entire thing, which is not much if you think about it, but essentially it's also not like small either. Wait, what? God, I'm talking nonsense now. Like it's very small, right? That's easy. But when I take that, the hosting I have only gives me 10 or 50 megabytes. I'm sorry, 50 megabytes of database. Then just optimizing the database itself just become a pretty nice idea. So yeah, I just did that. Sorry, I had to respond to something. So I changed like the big sized stuff because every table contained your name and your display name. Now it only contains a number. So that's pretty simple, right? It only contained a number, which was your Twitch ID. And that was used as the identification that this belongs to you. And then there was a separate table, which essentially said that to this ID, this name, this Twitch name, this display Twitch name is associated with as well. This he is a follower to this, like this ID is also a follower. This ID is also this. So I kind of intertwined these tables by IDs instead of this, which was back then a pretty huge deal. And also with this update, webhooks, I mentioned it earlier. So the webhooks now works kind of similarly. So if you follow, well, I will quickly repeat. If you follow, the Twitch sends me a message that this person followed with this ID, so I can go into my database. If I found this person in the database, I just toggle that he is a follower now. And if there's a giveaway running, of course, I will also increases his chances in the giveaway since he followed. This works the same for sub, but it's not done by webhooks. That's done by C# client mix as well. So this kind of worked. The stream up down, yeah, the bot now changes it automatically. It just posts to the Discord when it's live, And the Twitch also sends the message that it's no longer live, so I can upkeep it this way, and that worked beautifully. So Planbot 2.1 essentially was optimizing everything up most and other stuff as well. And I will talk about the other stuff now. But okay, first optimization then. Ah, God, I forgot the order of slides I do have. Oops. So the optimization part, I've been talking about it, but it was mainly with the webhooks, like the introduction of webhooks that helped a lot. Then was the server optimization. So you could see, at the beginning I've shared a piece of code I changed. So this is what was changed in the Planball 2.1 mainly. I was looking at almost every piece of code, thinking how can I approach it differently, how can I approach it faster mainly, and doing that kind of stuff. So I introduced a new interaction which Planball can do to servers. Not that it does, but it can do new interactions. You remember I've talked about the general channel of Salt. That is still there, but it can do much more now. It also works with INS server. INS members will know what Planbot does to them now, and it's actually awesome. And not only for that, but also for Twitch team, the delusional elitist, there is a specific version of Planbo which also works, which displays which member is live, what is his bio, and just links his stream as well. So that is part of that Discord server, which is not yet public, but hopefully people will, say soon it's gonna be. And the main thing with optimization, yeah, this was essentially what I said. I was trying to find new ways to improve the code. Not only that, the speed and other stuff I've been talking about way earlier at the start with the ticks, with the problems with ticks and stuff, but also the protection from yeah, I cannot say that word, but you can read it. Um, yeah, I can't say that word. Fuck. Anyhow, that was mainly for the web server, so I needed, so you cannot pretend you're someone else, which was mainly the part of implementing the Twitch IDs into place as well. So that kind of gave it the extra protection level I needed. But mainly, I needed a system that is reliable. I needed a system which will not crash if there's a mistake in the PHP code, or if the SQL command is, not well made, it's broken or something. I forgot to add like a new addition or something there. I needed a way so it doesn't crash, so I had to specifically set out the server settings and stuff so it doesn't crash. So the ticks process constantly, even if it fails, at one point it still goes. Which is the thing I needed in the first place. Let's imagine that would be like an error with one viewer in the entire list of online users, and if that error would occur, it would just stop. So let's say the first 10 people would get the tick, but the other let's say 50 people, for example, if there's 60 people watching, 61 people watching, wouldn't get it. So that would be a problem. So I kind of had to, just change server settings, the commands I used, so I know I need to fix some plot holes as well there and there. It kind of sounds stupid, but it's an integer which is definitely unsigned, so it's from 0 to some kind of a number. But let's just check if it's below 0, right? That actually was a fix to giveaways, for example, but that was done way before Planbot 2.1. If you remember, there was a time you could exclamation mark giveaway with negative proofs, and it would actually add proofs to you. That was the thing. So I had to, just do this, just make, just some kind of protection so you cannot abuse the system as much as possible. And abusing the system, I will talk about it as well, because now it's time for it. And abusing the system, and I had to introduce the tick block limits, I called it that, which essentially are that there is a specific amount of ticks you can tick every day, every stream. Which means if I'm streaming from Monday to Sunday, in case I go 24 hours or something. So these kind of stuff, it still applies as one day, as as 2 days, but as one stream, but it's still 2 days. So I needed to fix that somehow, because Terry mentioned about Tar is the number one example. There are multiple people who are botting or not talking in the channel. I've put the message up. There are a total of 5 people. So Tar had the second harshest setting I could put there, which was 2 hour. So he can only tick for 2 hours, and the rest of the day he cannot tick anymore. There's even harsher one, which there's no tick at all. You can kind of guess it would be for me because I really don't want to get any channel currency, and for my bot, so the bot cannot get the channel currency, and for Nightbot as well. So these are like 3 examples which have like the permanent one, and they cannot gain points at all. And there are 4 other people, not these 3 I just mentioned, which have the lowest one, the 36th tick, I think, or no 50, yeah 50 something tick thing. So they are limited to that, just that, but that also takes in mind, I'm streaming a lot, like per day, so essentially people will catch up eventually. Uh, so these limits were put in place just to prevent, just the Twitch bots just being in the channel. Because as I explained at the beginning with the IRC chatbot, essentially I could use the same kind of thing, but not reacting to the channel, just joining the channel, and that's it. I could farm proofs on my channel like that. I could I can find fireproof points on fireproof this channel. I can farm clovers on T-Pod's channel. I actually made a specific program just for me. So I can just run it. It takes roughly like 5 megabytes of RAM. It doesn't even take CPU power at all. So I can just have it running while even I'm streaming or gaming. In case someone else came online, I can farm their points. So when I come, after several months to like Jebro's channel, suddenly I'm one of the top guys who had the highest amount of channel currency, stuff like that. I'm abusing it myself, so that's why I kind of have an insight how I can, just limit it. The first idea I had was doing a Twitch extension, but I scrapped that idea because it required a lot of backend, the server work, which would be very bad in the end. So essentially, I just scrapped that idea completely and didn't care anymore. So that was nice. I was happy that that works. That was the introduction to the limits, and we're kind of getting to the end already. So let's just say a few things about the plan bot in numbers. It's not a big bot, as you can see. It only has like slightly less than 380 lines. And the C# client is 358, which is not much, but I'm only counting the lines I need for the custom stuff, since there are a lot of files which contains the assembly stuff, so I can assemble the entire stuff. So I'm only counting the forms I need to do. So that was 358 lines only, which was in the end kind of nice. So the website is almost double of the lines as the server part, mainly because it also contains the framework. So I'm displaying it in a certain way. So I need to create a table, to create a row in the table, to create cell in the row which is in the table. This all requires like a lot of lines and codes, a lot of whiles, just going through the data and stuff. So it can be explained, but I would still say overall, I think a code-wise website is lower on like the the functioning code, which actually does something, than the server part, obviously, because as I said, website mostly contains so it's framed this way, so you can actually look at it and see what it is. So first thing at the end, let's say that. What do I plan for the future? Just optimize the code and just change few ways, just or introduce new stuff and stuff like that, which are kind of nice to the bot or can be used to the community and stuff. we'll see how it goes if I actually, jumped on the Twitch stage so I have a higher amount of viewers or not. We'll see how that goes. But this kind of concludes the entire presentation. So obviously, I want to thanks a few people first. So come on, just everyone who enjoyed my streams. I know like my short streams are like 8 hours, and my medium streams are 10 hours, and my long streams are 12 hours. Yeah, I know it's not easy to be at the beginning to the end. So of course, like there were some continuous subs which are from the beginning, which I had the sub button. So which is Rima, Tar, Neva, Teapot, like all these people, which were sub to me since the beginning when I started this bot itself, as well as I got the sub button, which was slightly after I actually built the bot. So it wasn't that far away. It was like 9 months away, basically. So they were subbed from the beginning without like skipped a month or something, which is awesome. So thank you there. You're kind of paying for the website and for the servers. Just gotta throw it out there. And of course, if you are not sub, like it doesn't matter. I like you a lot. Like I see a lot of famous faces as well. Nico had to leave, for example. He's no longer watching my streams. But he used to watch me a lot. These kind of stuff. Thank you, everyone, guys. And yeah, that kind of concludes the whole presentation. So I will see the chat now. So if you have a question about this, how I can, make it even worse or better, you can ask now. Streaming on working hours, really? Don't worry. This is going on YouTube, so that's nice. So, guys, do you have a question, or can I just close it down on this as it is? Oh, you posted a question about. Oh, yeah, I see it. What would be a more fashionable solution than crons? Would it also improve the bot speed even further? Well, overall, just completely rewriting the core functions from PHP would make it faster. Since PHP is a scripting language, it's not a programming language. It has, it runs as an interpreted language, therefore. So there's no need to compile it, but it also at the cost of so basically I can change the line of code and I can redisplay the web page and it runs with the new code. I don't have to do anything. Like C#, like programming languages, you have to compile them so you can run the new code. So this is kind of the balance between. So what would it fix? Would probably be transition towards ASP.NET. That would be, or .NET in general. But my hosting doesn't support it. So I think this was the fastest way I could have just to make it faster. When are you gonna add Gachigasm? Yeah, it's Face Frankersy. What are you talking about? So, like, so any other question, guys, to the presentation, or can I just leave it as it is? Well, I'm gonna wait a second because stream delay, but yeah. If no one says anything in the next minute, then I will just close it at that. You put quite a work into this. I didn't expect so much information. That's nice. Yeah, I did put quite a work into it. It was half an hour, like when I timed it first. When I timed it and rehearsed what I will probably say about each slide as well, and just kind of backstory about the slide as well. But essentially, it became hour and a half as it is now. So yeah, any other question, guys? I'm just here for questions. If you have none, then I'll just the whole thing is set up as I expected. Nice. Instead of using some trash Streamlabs. Well, the stream I'm using Streamlabs to display it on stream. That's the only like difference, but I'm definitely not using the points which are generated by Streamlabs. I'm actually waiting until they can implement an API for the Streamlabs thing. So the Jack, for example, uses it from Delusional Elites, and he wants to like do a lot of changes with that. If I could be able, but there's no API, so I'm just waiting if they're gonna introduce any or not so far. You would rewatch, then maybe you would have questions. Yeah. Oh, nice. I ordered something and it's on the way. Great. Okay. I will give like 2 more minutes, so until it's 6 p.m. CET, which is in 2 minutes, then or less than 2 minutes. If no one has any question regarding the presentation, I will just end it there at that part, and that kind of would be it. Yeah, no one's typing anything, so maybe I should just end it on this, honestly. Well, no one's talking, so I guess I'm gonna end it on this then. So thank you for listening, guys. You just came. Feels bad, man. Yeah. It's gonna be on YouTube, and I will highlight it on Twitch as well, so it's gonna stay there forever. But yeah, this is exactly how I struggled making my own Twitch bot to do these kind of stuff. You just use Streamlabs? Yes. Like, it takes some time, obviously, It takes some time to make the overall bot. Let me just keep it on this slide, so we have some kind of background to this. So I guess that is then 6 p.m. No questions. I will end it here then, and thank you for listening, guys. It was very nice of you, and I'm really tired of speaking, so the part I also wanted to do, which was this, is not happening, by the way, not today. So yeah, thank you. I will highlight the entire thing, and I will upload it to YouTube basically as fast as possible. So that should be all right. So thank you everyone for listening, or whoever is watching this on YouTube as well. Thank you, and maybe later. um, some awkward face so I can